Hello and welcome to Phil's Drone Zone, and in particular, welcome to this brand new series in which we'll be focusing on what you can do with Motion 5. This is a course that's aimed at complete beginners, and in a very short time, you're going to be creating some very awesome things. So if you are a first-time visitor to the channel and you really want to learn how to use Motion 5, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click the bell so you'll be updated when I upload my future videos. This course has been put together based on the mistakes that I made and what I subsequently did to put it right. So let's get straight in. When you open up Motion 5, this is what you'll see. This is your initial screen. For now, just ignore everything in the left-hand pane, and we're just going to focus on the middle and the right-hand pane. In the center pane, you will see the 5 project types that you can create. You have Motion Projects, Final Cut Pro Effects, Final Cut Pro Generators, Final Cut Transitions, and Final Cut Titles. For now, we're just going to be working in projects, so we will click on projects and move to the right-hand pane. In the right-hand pane, you can see a bunch of other settings at the top there. And in your presets, you have a bunch of options, but I'm just going to leave that at broadcast HD 1080p. And in the bottom box where it says duration, this is where you can change the length of your project. And you can set that by typing into the box any length of project that you want. I'm just going to leave it at 10 seconds and I can always change the length once I'm inside, as you will see later. And then my frame rate, as I always work, or pretty much all the time work in 30 frames per second, I'm just going to leave that at 30 frames per second, and then I will click open. And this will take you to the main Motion 5 interface. Now it looks complex, but trust me, it's not as complicated as it looks. On the top right hand side, you can see the canvas or the viewer. And by default, it's set to 100%. Now I don't want this, so I'm now going to resize my canvas so that I can see everything. Now I'll do this by either clicking here and selecting fit, or just hit Shift and Z on the keyboard, and that will resize the canvas so that you can now see everything. The viewer works in exactly the same way as it does in Final Cut Pro, except it has 1 or 2 other little things that it can do, as you'll find out later. Okay, so that's the viewer or the canvas. So now let's take a quick scoot around the rest of the interface. Now you don't need to know everything that's on there and how everything works at this point. We'll learn about all those as and when we need it. But you do need to know about the particular areas and what you can do in each of the sections that you can see. So let's just have a quick look before moving on to the fun bit at the end of the tutorial. Underneath the canvas, what you can see is your timeline area. And I'm just going to resize this little bit so that it makes the layers section a little bit bigger. You can adjust this to taste. And right down the bottom of the timeline here, you see this little slider. And you can use this to magnify, to zoom in or out on the timeline, depending on what your needs are and what you're working on. Now, it's in this area that you can adjust the timings of particular layers of your project, and was very much the same as Final Cut Pro. To the left of the canvas or viewer, you can see the main project pane. And it's here that I tend to import all my elements into my project. It's also here where you can keep all your things very nicely organized. And as you'll see later, it's very, very important in Motion 5 to be organized. And finally, to the left of the project pane, you'll see the inspector panel. and it's here that you'll do most of the animations for your projects. And that's about it really, except that between the viewer and the timeline we have a whole bunch of tools there, and at the top we have another bunch of tools at the top, but we don't need to know about those until we absolutely need to use them. And then just above the timeline you have the timing bar. This is quite important, and you can view the project in a number of different ways. And if you just click on this little down arrow here, you can see the different ways that you can view the time. I like to use frames because I'm working in motion in frames, and that seems to work very, very well. So if I want to go to the 30th frame, then I just type in 30, hit return, and the playhead will jump to the 30th frame. And again, if I want to go back to the start of the project, then I could just type in 0, hit return, and it jumps back to the start of the project. This is just purely personal preference, how you view that, but for me, because I'm working in frames, it makes things a lot easier. Okay, now we come to the fun bit, and we're going to start in the library. So let's open a new project and get started. Okay, welcome back, and as you can see, we've been very busy here, and we have created this rather interesting little project. And that's what you're going to do today. We're going to create something similar to this, although not identical, using just two generators which are going to blend together, a particle emitter, a logo, and a title. And there's no expert knowledge needed, just going to have a good play and create something really interesting. Okay, so let's get on with it. Let's show you how I put this together. Okay, so as you can see, I've opened up a brand new project, and the first thing that I'm going to do as usual is hit Shift and Z on the keyboard, and that will resize my project. Then I'm going to adjust the size of this little pane here so I've got more of my timeline showing. Okay, before we begin, just a few things to help us get started. You can see that the inspector pane has a dual focus, and it has the inspector tab and the library tab. So I'm just going to click on the library tab and we can open up the library. In here there are thousands of preloaded elements which I think are very overlooked and underused by people first starting out in motion. So in the library I'm going to select shapes, and I'm going to import a shape into my project. I'll just choose this little star. Now there are 4 ways that I can do this. I can click apply, and that will drag it into the group, and it will become visible on the canvas. Then I can simply click on it and drag it on top of the group that I want it to go into. The third way that I can do it is to drag it into the timeline pane, and that will do exactly the same job. And then finally I can just drag it directly onto the canvas. Now you can see when I do that it actually, unlike all the other methods, it doesn't center it. No problem, I can just go to the inspector and click on properties, and on the position parameter, click the little down arrow and then click reset parameter, and that will center it up. Now we all make mistakes, and if you want to remove an element or a group, simply highlight it and press delete on the keyboard. You can also use the undo function in the edit menu, or use the shortcut Command Z to undo something that you did that you now don't like. And just one other thing, if I want to make adjustments to an item, I'll just highlight it. I can go to properties, and let's say scale. I can just drag on the slider that's next to it, and that will increase. However, sometimes you want to increase it beyond the slider, then just click on the box and keep dragging with the mouse either way, and this will increase it even further, and you can scale it that way. Or if you want to be more detailed, then just type a value in the box. So type 100, and that will bring it back to how it was in the beginning. Okay, so now I will just clear everything and then we'll be ready to begin. So I'm just going to click on the library, and then I'm going to click on the content section in my library. Then select backgrounds, and you'll see a ton of backgrounds in here. Just select one and drag it into your timeline. Anything will do that you particularly like. I'm just going to use ethereal because I particularly like that one. Okay, so now I will go to my inspector and I will click on properties, and I'm going to adjust the scale. Now I can either use that slider, but I'm just going to click on the box and type in 145, hit return, and then that will size up my background to my screen. Okay, so just by clicking on the little arrow here, I'll find the generator. And in the properties section, I'm just going to decrease the opacity to 80%. And once I've done that, I will click on the generator group. I'm just going to play with speed, the color, and the layer strengths down here at the bottom. And so we'll start messing about with these, and we're just going to play, and I'm going to post my values up on the side, but find your own values for your own generators and just start creating something. Start seeing things and, oh, I like that, oh, I don't like that, and adjusting things to your particular taste. So I'm just, as you can see, I'm just adjusting the layer strengths down the bottom, trying to find something that I particularly like. And when I get there, that seems kind of cool. I'm now going to click on this little gradient box and just change the color. And I'm just simply going to click on a lot of things until I find something that works for me. And that seems to work quite nicely. And so I'm done with the first group. Now I'm going to create a new group. I'll click on Project, Add Object, Group, and then I have another group added on top of my first group. Go back to backgrounds, and I'll find another generator. I'm going to use Heavenly, and I'm just going to pop it into the new group I created. I'm going to name my first group BG1, double click on the second one and name that BG2, background 2. Now I will go to background 2, properties, and I'm going to type in 145 to scale it to fit my project. Okay, so I'm going to do exactly the same here. And first thing I will do is go to the generator group and reduce the opacity. And then I'm going to go in and play with the speed, colors if you want, and also the layer strengths. I'm going to play with these until I've got something that I really like. So at the moment, you see, I'm just adjusting the layer strengths again. I'm looking for something that I think would be quite a nice background for a title. Maybe something like that, but it's a bit bright. So I'm going to go back to the properties and reduce the opacity a little bit more. And now I've got something that I really like. Okay, I'm now going to create a new group. Click on Add Object, Group, and we have our third group. And I'm going to go back to the library, and in the particle emitters section of the library, I'm going to drag in something that I can play with, and I'm going to look for gravity phone, and I'm just going to drag that in to group 3. And then I'm going to play with the parameters until I've got it exactly as I want it. So I'm going to highlight the gravity phone, go to the inspector and click on emitter, the emitter tab. And then I'm just going to play with a whole bunch of parameters. The idea is not to copy what I do, but for you to change them according to what works for you. Just play in there and things will happen for you, and sometimes things won't work, and then just undo and keep playing until you find something that you like. If you want to practice with mine first, pause the video now and I will put up a list of the parameter changes that I made. Okay, so to get to the end, I'm now going to speed up the video. Okay, so once we've done that, I'm now going to create a new group. Click on Project, Add Object, Group, and I will rename the last group Emitter, and the new group I will rename Text. So I now have 4 groups and they're all labeled, and if I want to find anything, it will be really easy to find them. I'm now going to import the Apple logo into this new group. And then I'm going to click on Text, select Text, and then I will just anywhere on the screen type in Motion 5. You can use whatever text you like. Then I'm going to go to the text properties and scale the text to the size that I want it. Then just position it by dragging it on the canvas and use the yellow snapping bars to find the center. Okay, and then I'm going to highlight the text, go into the text tab in the inspector, and in the format section I can format the text very similarly to what I do in Final Cut Pro. Then I'll go to appearance and I'll just change the text color. Something like that will do fine for now. And then I'm going to add an outline to make it stand out even more. This is also very similar to what you do in Final Cut Pro. I'll increase the width of the outline, and then we're done. So all that remains now is to animate the text. Now I want the text to come in at around 60 frames, so I will just double click there, and I will type in 60 and press return. Then I will highlight the text and I'll press I on the keyboard, and that will trim it to where I want the text to come in. Okay, so now I will highlight the text and go to behaviors, and I'm just going to find text basic, and just for now I'm just going to use slide in its very basic preloaded form, and you can see the text just slides in really nicely. I will type in now 90 frames, which is where I want the effect to finish, and trim that back so that the whole thing coming in will last for just 1 second, and there you have it. Now I need to go to where I want the text to disappear out. So we want it to stay there for around about 1.5 seconds, which is 45 frames. So I'll just type in here 135, and then I'll press enter. Now I will go back, highlight the text, go back to behaviors, and I will select text basic again, and this time slide out. I'll then drag the slide out to where the playhead is at 135 frames. Again, I want that to last for 35 frames, and then so type in 170, trim it off, and now we have this effect. Next, find where the slide out finishes, highlight the text and press O on the keyboard, and that will trim it to where the text finishes, and then it will disappear after the effect. And then you've created this out of nothing with no expert knowledge. And so you've made it to the end of the video. And that's all you need to do for the next few days, is to play with some generators, play with some particle emitters, alter the parameters, blend them all together and see what you can come up with just from all the preloaded stuff in the library. This will give you a feel for what you can do when you begin really creating in Motion 5. I know this was a long video, but there was a lot to go through, and if you've made it this far, thank you very much for staying this far, and I hope you found it beneficial. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click the bell so that you'll be updated when future videos are uploaded, and I'll see you all in the next video.